What is a dirty little secret about an industry that you have worked in that people outside the industry really should know? They put little weights in lipsticks to make them feel more expensive so they can charge more. If it's the first time a professor is teaching a course, there's a good chance they are just one lecture ahead of the rest of the class. When the health inspector shows up, a mad scramble happens in the back to clean the kitchen while they start the inspection in the dining bar area of the restaurant. Locksmith here. We can get into any locked door within 30 seconds. All the posturing and bringing out a impressive toolkit and hammer drill is just showmanship to prolong the call out. 30 seconds flat. When an app pops up with a "Do you like this app" thing, the yes button goes to the App Store for a review. The no button goes to an internal complaint process. This, on average, filters upset customers away from the App Store and artificially raises app score by a whole star on average. That is the only way most corporate service apps have 4 stars. A very popular local bagel shop/bakery I worked at advertised all of our baked goods were homemade. Dozens of muffins, Danish cinnamon rolls, and they were not. They all came from Cisco, frozen on sheets. Many customers would rave about the baked goods, saying they were the best they've had. God bless them. If you're ever buying bulk gravel, sand, crushed stone from a local pit quarry that has scales to weigh the amount of product you're getting fucked because you're paying for water. Most of these pits quarries spray the living fuck out of their stockpiles during operation to make the material heavier in the truck. Never buy by the ton. Always buy aggregate by the cubic yard. It's a measure of volume, not weight. Source: I own a rock crushing business, multiple quarries, and I charge by the cubic yard to not screw the public. There is a lot of money spent every year that decides where specific items are placed on grocery store shelves. If you're at a grocery store that's part of a chain and you look at a shelf and there's an item that's approximately at eye level, I guarantee you that the company that makes that item paid a lot of money to put them there. There's lots of weird psychological tricks that go on in terms of how stores are laid out. You have to know your way around healthcare to get good healthcare. Edit: I had no idea this would get attention, but I'm so glad it did. Here's a summary of some tips. Thank you to many of the PPL in this thread for their own experiences and tips too. What you should know. First, your patient rights. You can ask for a referral to a specialist. You can ask for second opinions. You can ask to see what is in your chart. Know your rights. Second, if you have a family member in a hospital or long-term care home, please visit and be there as much as possible. When you are sick or old, you are just not able to summon the energy to be on top of med errors or even general care. The more eyes on the care and environment, the better for your family member. Third, advocate for your family member. Do some research too. What is the illness? What are some options? And take these to the doctor and ask if they're appropriate, with the patient's consent, obviously, for the patient. Fourth, follow up. If the office doesn't call you, follow up. Keep following up with offices, pharmacies, specialists, etc. until you're satisfied. 5. If you are in the States, review your bill. Go over every item and see what can be negotiated and hound them until you feel it's fair. The squeaking wheel gets the grease. 6. Get a job in healthcare. Not a clinician? No problem. Environmental services and portering are excellent, well-paying entry-level jobs that can get you potentially into a union. You will learn hospital and healthcare really fast. 7. Before your family member goes home from hospital, make sure you see a discharge planner or a social worker to talk about discharge. Hospitals are full, and they usually are pressed to send people home fast, with healthcare at home being an option. But it's not the only option. Talk to the discharge planner and push back if you need to. Look up questions to ask the discharge planner. 8. If you want the doctor to prescribe, refer something, and they choose not to, you are within your rights to say, "May I have that option noted in my chart? I'd like to keep track of what I've asked you about." Innocent, right? Well, it's a good way to get the clinician to think about whether they want their rebuttal of your suggestion in the chart. 9. If it feels wrong, please see someone else. Don't just blindly trust health professionals. They're people too. They're not magic. Some are better than others. Read clinician reviews so you at least know what to expect. To all those folks who go into apps with chronically ill family or partners, you are guardian angels. Keep doing what you're doing. It is more supportive, and the optics for the clinicians matter than you know. We touch your food with our hands. Weird. And yes, we wash them so often that they might fall off. That, or you get asleys that wear gloves for 12 hours and never change gloves or wash their hands. Wells Fargo and other banks, WF is just the worst I've had experience with, likes to come up with ways to illegally charge you fees. They then eventually get sued, pay a fine that is less than 1% of the profit they made on those fees, then finds a new, slightly different way to fuck you some more. Rinse and repeat. Find a good credit union. Mega banks are all screwing you over. People like to think that data analytics is some objective truth when there is so much bias and room for subjectivity in data collection, analysis, interpretation, and communication. Oftentimes, insights are cherry-picked data sets deliberately presented to make a specific point rather than having the data craft the conclusion. Hotels don't change the comforter on the beds in between guests unless there's a noticeable stain on it. If the pillows are placed on a chair instead of on the bed at checkout, housekeeping assumes they weren't used and puts them back on the bed without changing the pillowcases. All of this is due to cutting corners in housekeeping because the keepers are under strict timers for each room, and they have an insane amount of rooms to do every day. When picking a container to drink from in this order is the best: glass bottles, kegs, aluminum cans, PET plastic bottles. Here's why. PET bottles are usually filled hot to sterilize the bottle and cooled by water. Plastic is not intended to heat it up to this temperature. Aluminum cans, so many reasons, but there is a spray-coated liner in the can that prevents the beverage from leaching a metallic flavor from the can. Kegs are cleaned, but the draft lines are. The bars are not properly cleaned and have residual beer stone in the line, so you will have that crap in my beverage. Glass bottles are hypoallergenic, and the caps are shipped in sealed bags in boxes. And most bottle fillers have a UV sterilization system for the caps. At a bank, we can see each time when you contact us: email, postal mail, phone call, online chat, etc. We can see when you log in, when you've been granted for something to be waived, etc. By all means, ask for a late fee removed. You wouldn't believe the people that would say, "But I logged in and paid it." There is a process you have to click 3 to 4 times to confirm the amount, date, account you're paying from, and then finally confirm everything. Be nice, and if we can do anything regarding your situation, we usually will. I'm a bartender. Always, always, always ask for your drink without the lime, lemon, orange, cherry, olive, fruit. 9:10. The fruit is warm, has been sitting out all day, and flies and gnats have been all over them. Also, every worker's hands have been all over them. If you think fresh fruit is cut every morning, night, shift change, etc., it's not. If not, all the cut fruit is used by close, it gets put in the fridge to use the next day. Also, if you send your drink back and want a new one because it's too sweet or not sweet enough or whatever minor thing, know that when you get her drink back, it's most likely the same drink as before, just in a new glass. Maybe some very minor changes, but when you're busy, you don't really have time to make a whole new drink. Also, when you're cut off, the whole staff knows it, so asking a different person for a drink will not get you anywhere. And if they do bring you a drink, it probably doesn't have any alcohol or has a bit in the straw to make you think there's alcohol in it. Last but not least, if you live in a small, medium town and you don't tip or you start issues with staff at a place multiple times, then other places know about you. There is a higher turnover rate with servers and bartenders, and most people stay in the same area, and they will talk. I'm friends with a lot of old coworkers, and we talk about certain customers. If you don't tip at all constantly, multiple servers and bartenders know. If you start problems or issues multiple times, we know, and we judge. I'm a paramedic. The 911 system and paramedic ambulances exist, and were invented for the serious, meaning life or limb-threatening, medical or traumatic emergency. Sadly, though, probably 40 to 70% of our calls on any given day are made by assholes who have nothing close to resembling anything emergent. There are many people who do it all the time, or at least frequently enough where we know who they are, and we call them shitbags or 911 narcissists. Even in systems where we are required to transport, we still try to turf much of the time, meaning we find ways of telling people that transport from us is not needed and they need to not waste our valuable time. In many counties across the US, per protocol, we have to take people to the ER who insist on going. Much of the time, we will act okay with it and tell you it's no big deal. It is a big deal, though. Many of us work 24-hour base shifts and pick up OT, often working 48 to 96-hour shifts. When people call 911 for stupid shit, it has serious downhill effects. There are a limited number of paramedic ambulances in every city and region, and every time someone gets itchy phone finger and calls 911 for non-emergent reasons, it takes away from people who are having real emergencies that need us. I can't tell you the number of times a call for a heart attack, or stroke, or traffic collision, or CPR went out in my district, a call that I was the closest unit to, but I was stuck on scene with some selfish asshole with a tummy ache. Yes, people call for tummy aches. They call for chronic back pain. They call for migraine headaches. They call for toe pain. They call for a runny nose. They call because they're homeless, and suddenly it's 911's problem. All right? They want to go to the hospital and treat it like a homeless shelter. My personal favorite is people who call because they will get seen faster. You absolutely the fuck will not get seen faster, because I will wheel your ass straight into the lobby where you would have gone if you would have driven yourself. Only my ride costs you $3,000. Now that Medicaid Medi-Cal pays for transport and people don't get billed, they view it as a free ride and will call 911 if they get a craving for a fucking sandwich at the hospital. Many immigrant populations, especially ones from the Middle East, tell each other that if you get sick, to call 911 because doctors will come to your house and take you to the hospital. All of this has driven call volume up. That means we aren't eating, we aren't sleeping, we're running ragged, and much of the time it's for selfish people who are abusing the system for their own gain. So when you call 911 at midnight for a real emergency and you need us, we will be there. We will kick ass. We will do our very best for you and your family, because that's what we do. But will our eyes be bloodshot, and will we be not nearly as effective as we should be because we've had no rest? Bet your ass on it. You can thank assholes in your city for pinging the system all day, every day, and demanding a ride to the ER because they have the same flu bug that the rest of the neighborhood has. But because they're special and you're not, they can't be expected to merely ride it out and self-care like the rest of us. If you have a situation that is either life-threatening or that makes you unable to walk, I'm talking injuries here, not I have a headache and can't walk. Or you have a situation where you risk losing limb or some kind of immediate threat to your medical well-being, call 911. We will happily assess you, treat you, and transport you to the ER. Do not call 911 because you feel it's convenient. Do not call 911 because an illness or injury is making things merely uncomfortable for you, because that isn't an emergency. Do not call 911 because you want to be transported to urgent care or your doctor appointment, or because you want to be transported to the area that a certain hospital is in for a non-medical reason. Do not call 911 because your life is so pathetic that the only satisfaction you get is dialing those 3 magic numbers and having a fire engine and ambulance show up and take you to a place where you get some attention. If that's the reasons you call 911, then seriously, get fucked. The system exists for people who are in emergency situations, not for your convenience.